All right, so where I left off, because I was running out of time there, I just had to cut off that video. After that experience, we had a full day. Some people slept, some people stayed up and talked. But after we came out of the first ceremony, before going to a place of rest, we had breakfast, we shared experiences together. I woke up at about 4:30, 5 o'clock on Friday morning, and I had about an hour and a half nap on Saturday, and that's about all the sleeping I did. I don't normally pull all-nighters. I don't know how it happened, but that's kind of what happened. So on Saturday, I felt such a deep connection with these people around me and them sharing their experiences that I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to absorb as much as possible. And so I spent most of the day just talking with people, journaling, processing my experiences. And then I actually chose to have a healing session with a woman who was there offering services. And she was able to help uncover some unresolved issues for me that I thought I had dealt with, but were still present in my energy field. And so that helped to direct some of my focus for the Saturday night. So we ate dinner around 5:30. We had a simple soup. It was so delicious. And then we spent a couple hours hanging out in the, I guess like the one house where the ceremonies take place. And during that evening, I think it was maybe about 8:30 or so, this is when we had MBL. Some people had MBL the night before, during the ceremony, during the process. But this is also made out of like a therapeutic, but like a healing, purifying tobacco, but it's actually this like thick black paste, and you put it in either the roof of your mouth or under your tongue, and you slowly allow it to dissolve. And this is supposed to get you out of your head and into your heart. That's basically the intention of it. And so it's really something that I probably should have explored the night before in retrospect, because I was so caught in my mind, but I had to find my own way to deal with it, and it all just played out perfectly the way it was supposed to. So anyway, the one shaman actually came in where we were all just hanging out in the one living room, and offered for anybody that wanted some MBL to have some. For me, it took me from, because I was journaling and trying to process, and I'd probably written about 6 or 7 pages about the night before. When I took the MBL and I had to, keep my mouth closed, you don't want to swallow it quickly, because then you'll probably throw up, kind of like everything. It took me from this place where I was writing and journaling, and then I turned the page and I started to draw. I started to get away from language and into other ways of expression, and I thought that was really neat and really symbolic of the medicine. I started drawing portraits. I haven't drawn faces in so long, so it felt good. It took me into this other space. I felt a lot of peace. When we went into the ceremony that night, we again did the karunga, is maybe what it was called, with the powder. So he used a different one this night. We also were all together instead of separately in a separate room. And this one was like so intense. This is also after having, I think it was called karunga or karunda. I felt this I felt so connected to these people that I was with. But I just wanted to hug everyone, and I just wanted to, you know, be close and snuggle and just share as much love as I possibly could, and comforting people and allowing myself to be comforted. And it was just so nice. It was so nice. So heading into the ceremony, about half of us went into the room early, and we tried to, you know, get into the space. And so I created a mantra for myself, because the night previously had created a lot of fear for me. I developed a mantra, and it was simply, teach me love, keep me safe, and help me heal. I repeated this over and over, and I was, you know, being respectful to the process, and really trying to feel my words and embrace this type of an experience. A couple of us did some beautiful ohms together to raise the vibration of the room, and then we moved a lot more quickly into drinking the ayahuasca brew this time, because we had done this very elaborate opening ceremony the night before, and then this time it was just time to move into it. So I drank. I didn't love the taste of it as much this time around. I sat with it. It must have been half an hour, 45 minutes, and I didn't feel a fucking thing. And I was trying so hard to feel something, and that's probably part of it, is I was trying so hard. So I ended up having another drink. I did feel slightly nauseous, so I went for about half. He ended up pouring like almost a whole cup. And then immediately I felt like I was gonna throw up, so I like ran back to my sleeping bag and grabbed the bucket, and I sounded like I puked, and absolutely nothing came out. Just this like, this sound. Nothing came out. And then I laid down on my side, and this is even more than the night before. I really, really wrestled with myself trying to get comfortable. And that nausea, and I was laying there and I felt nauseous, and I was trying to make it go away, and I was trying to make it go away. And I had this conversation with myself as all these people around me are purging, and they're releasing, and they're letting go, and they're laughing, and they're crying, and they're letting all sorts of things happen. I was like, the whole point is to purge. The whole point is to purge, and I'm not allowing myself to do this. And I sat up and I tried to make it happen. I got frustrated it wasn't happening. I'm like, I'm not having an experience. It's not happening. And I got so frustrated, and I got to the point where I felt like this was such a waste. I got into this headspace where I felt like I wasn't having an experience, that there was something wrong with me, or that this medicine just didn't work for my body. These thoughts going through my head. And I had very, very, very faint visions of, you know, being underwater, and both nights I felt this they were faint, they were not vibrant, and I really felt like they were almost like something created by myself, that I was like in some sort of a like machine of some sort, for a very short period of time, and I really have no idea what to take of it. And then I got to the point where I was completely sober, and I was so frustrated, and I thought, oh my God, like the night is over, and Like, what did I get out of this? What did I get out of this? And I tried to think back, okay, I came into this with this mantra: teach me love, keep me safe, help me heal. And I'm like, I'm asking so much to be kept safe, as if I don't trust Mama Ayahuasca to keep me safe already. And so yes, I've been in such a safe place that I've not even been able to explore. And I think it was at this point in time I also recognized that yes, indeed, I am experiencing love. I'm feeling not just love for myself, which I experienced the night before, but love for everyone around me. And also experiencing the reason why love is such an abstract thing. But in that moment, I realized that I loved all of these people that were perfect strangers 24 hours ago. I loved them because they were choosing to be vulnerable. They were choosing to show all aspects of themselves. They were choosing to express instead of to fear and to be insecure and worried about judgment. They were just allowing themselves to be the beautiful, innocent, childlike selves that exist deep within all of us. They were allowing themselves to be, unladylike and or manlike, whatever, like burping and all sorts of bodily functions happening, and tears happening with no holding back. And I felt really grateful for that. But I still felt like, you know what, I'm just not going to do this again. This is just not for me. And I thought the night was ending because I was moving into that sober headspace. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'm here. I'm going to go up and ask, is this the right time to have more? And I went up, and 3 other guys showed up, ready to have another drink as well. I was like, oh, I guess we're not at that point in the night yet, or in the morning. And one of the guys who came for just the one night has taken part in quite a few ceremonies before, and he gave me some comfort, some words of wisdom, some encouragement. He's like, if you're up here because, it's time to have some more. And at this point, I'd still not purged. And so I had another full drink. I went back to my sleeping bag, and I didn't really go into a different space, but I did lay down, and I did again go into this place. I'm like, okay, the point is to purge. The point is to purge. And finally, I ended up sitting up. I'm just like, I'm going to hang out with it here. I'm just going to sit here. I'm just going to hang out with this. And at the same time, I was trying to surrender and be like, okay, if I don't purge, I don't purge. It's fine. But then I'm putting pressure on myself and, back in the head. At the same time, I'm putting pressure on myself because I'm not expressing any emotions. And normally I'm an extremely sensitive person, and I was just not letting anything out. And finally, it started to come out. Finally, it started to release, to let go, to come out of my body. And this is like, we're on empty stomach, and I've only had these couple ounces of fluid. The stomach itself, the stomach organ, is like under the rib cage. This was like a gathering of energy. After a couple passes, I was able to observe it happen. And it was like an energy was gathering from like the space around my belly button or even lower. And it was like this pocket of energy on the left side of my body. And I felt it gather, and then it just came out. And it kept doing this. And I could feel like I was trying to purge, I was trying to vomit, and nothing came until I felt this gathering, and then it just came out through my body. And there was so much release with that. And it felt like it was coming from the area, the splenic flexure is what I think it's where it's called, where your transverse colon meets your descending colon at that bend. I felt like that's where it was coming from. And I feel like that's where a lot of my congestion has been. So I really truly believe that a lot of my, and I've said this before, but a lot of my bloating, a lot of my digestive distresses have been rooted in emotional problems. So after I finally had all this releasing, I laid down and I allowed my mind to wander, and I wanted to have an emotional release, and I had to actually force it to happen. And I thought about something that has been causing me a lot of sadness lately. And at first I did, like, you know, the fake kid cry, and I faked a cry until finally the tears started flowing, and I finally had this real visceral emotional experience. And then I felt anger, and I worked my way through these different emotions, and I allowed myself to just experience them. One thing I forgot to mention was the first night I had a lot of laughing release. I found everything funny, and because that laughing felt so good, I tried to make it happen the second night, and it just was not, it was not there. I don't remember actually coming out of the second night. I do remember finally, like, you know, the sunlight coming through the windows. I do believe, because of my lack of sleep, that there were maybe some points where I started to drift off a little bit. But I did have an experience in the first night. I mean, there's so many layers. It's like all these things were happening simultaneously, so it's hard to be chronological with this. But in the first night, in that time, or I guess lack of time, in that space where I was feeling no time, no space, just this existence, it was in that moment where I felt like all of these neural pathways that have been formed, all these habits that have been formed. Ayahuasca, DMT, the active ingredient, one of the effects it actually has on the brain is that it breaks those bonds, because those bonds build up almost like scar tissue. And so we have a certain emotional response, or we do a certain thing, and a lot of things we do, we're like, why did I do that? Why do I do that? Why do I feel that way? And these patterns have been built up over a lifetime. And what this medicine is able to do is actually break those bonds. And when I was having that experience where I felt like my consciousness had been shattered, I felt like those bonds were just like, all of these neurons were just floating, and they were just open to repattern in any way. And so in that moment, I was like, oh, I recognize this happening. And even though I don't need to reprogram myself, I started saying, like, you know, I am this, I love all the people around me, I am beautiful, I love myself. I started saying like all these things that I knew as truths, and I tried to like program as many positive things into myself as possible. It was pretty wild. It was pretty wild. So before having breakfast on the second day, we actually did a talking circle where everyone shared their experiences, or shared something that they wanted to share with the group. And for me, I chose to share my feeling that for the first time in my life, I felt like I was starting to understand what love was, and why certain people I feel love for and not for others. And it was all about their ability to be vulnerable. And I had this huge amount of gratitude for every person in the room. It was just really amazing. Yeah, it was really amazing. So it's been, I guess, 3 full days since I've gotten home. And I still feel this vibration in my body, almost like my blood is vibrating, like almost like there's like a consistent ohm going on. And they say that the medicine is in your body for a week after your last drink. And so even as I started making the first video, it's like there's this shift in me. It's like when I bring my attention to the mother, to the vine of the soul, to ayahuasca, to that energy, it's like it reconnects with me. And so there were times where I felt like this was such an incredible experience. There were times where I felt like this was stupid and I don't know why I did this. But in the end, reflecting on the entire weekend, I feel like this was, it's interesting how different aspects of your life start to play into it, because I was reading one of my textbooks, doing some studying yesterday, and there was a section that was talking about how we have to prepare the mind, like we prepare a garden in the spring, and we have to pull the weeds and nourish the lands. And I feel like this weekend was pulling weeds, and the real gardening hasn't begun for me yet. I feel like for my mind there were so many weeds there to be pulled that that's what we spent the entire weekend doing. And I feel like I didn't actually get my first real retreat yet. And so I plan on returning to ayahuasca in a relatively short period of time, because I feel like now I'm at the place where I'm ready to explore. And in the meantime, I'm working on shutting down the mind. I am meditating and journaling consistently every morning. I am honoring my need to be pretty quiet about this experience. I also feel this surge of creativity within myself, and I feel excited to put a lot more content out online and to build my business. And I realize that it's what makes me happiest, and it's the path for me is to share. And in recognizing that connection of love and vulnerability, I've realized that my desire to share as many experiences as I can with all of you on here, it's because I want you guys to feel comfortable being vulnerable in your life, because that's where the real growth happens. I've got that lovely flashing running out of time thing here again. So I thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for listening to my story, my experience, and I look forward to sharing more as time goes on. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.